Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bart Lamboo. I've been working on the topic of micro-credentials within the Netherlands for about 4 years, together with Bram here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the the national perspective, and Bram is going to give you some examples of how that blends out within one of the institutions in the Netherlands. So, in the Netherlands, as I was saying, we've been working on this topic for quite a while. Important to notice is our pilots that I'm going to tell you about are an initiative in the Netherlands. We have umbrella organizations for our vet schools, for our universities of applied sciences, and for our science universities. And the scope for our projects has been lifelong learners, so not initial students, but lifelong learners. And our micro-credentials are offered at a fair market price to learners. So the aim of our projects is basically developing a system in which micro-credentials have a recognized value. So this is what we're aiming for. And to have recognized value, you must have clear procedures. Quality assurance is a big part. And obviously that leads to actual micro-credentials being offered. So I'll go just briefly into our timeline. As you can see, our process started even earlier. So we had a preliminary process. And I'm going to tell you in a little bit about our quality framework, because this is quite central to our approach. But we started in 2021 in higher education. And then, well, I'll just go through this quite quickly. Maybe some of you, have some of the people here seen the presentation of the Edu Badges service this morning? Can I see some hands maybe? So not everybody, but it is very well recommended. Micro-credentials in the Netherlands, we have a service called the Edu Badges service, and this is a service for certifying all sorts of digital credentials. And this was for us a very big plus. It was already operational before we started our project. In the bottom here, you can see that depending on the sector, quite a lot of our public institutions took part. So in total, about 2/3 of our institutions. And as I was saying, we started in higher education, and then last spring we also started a pilot in our vet schools in the Netherlands. First, micro-credentials were issued in the summer of 22. And in early 23, we also started peer reviews. And I'll tell you a little bit about that as well. So this is basically, recently we also had a national micro-credentials conference, which was quite a success also. I'll go into this quality assurance in a little bit more detail. I'll tell you a little bit about this part too, but first I'll go into what's actually in our quality framework. So I would say it's not rocket science, like it's very much focused on the ESG standards. So we follow the ESG standards, and this of course helps with the recognized value within diploma-oriented pathways. We follow the standards for the European Commission for what is a micro-credential and the standard elements. Important is that every institution sets up a internal quality process and appoints a body to guarantee it. One of the challenges I will go into later is that this is very much focused on the internal quality aspects of the ESG. So people that are in quality assurance know that there's an internal and an external quality aspect. And one of the challenges is, how do we organize the external quality aspect of micro-credentials in a sort of light, but still, I would say, very serious way. We chose to experiment with micro-credentials between 3 and 30 credits, use the Bologna tools as much as possible, and in line with the portfolio of the issuing institution. So this is all very good and well, but at the same time, important aspect of our quality framework is that the recognition of each other's micro-credentials, that doesn't mean the validation, but the recognition is also a part of our quality framework. So that means that institutions recognize each other's micro-credentials. And the boards of our institutions are also committed on this framework. So they are the ones enrolling their institution in this pilot. So our pilots are very much focused on knowledge sharing. So we have different knowledge sharing activities, learning communities on different topics. Every 3 months, and then there's also peer reviews between institutions. This is an attempt to organizing external quality assurance. So 2, 3, 4 institutions look at each other's quality assurance systems, and they go in depth and give each other feedback on those. Next to that, there's also national meetings for project leaders. So we have quite a lot of different ways in which knowledge is shared, because we feel that it's very important for a successful project. So then the most important things, what are our lessons? So we feel like collaboration is an essential aspect of the success of micro-credentials within the Netherlands. So this means within institutions, between institutions, so that's why we organize these learning communities, for instance, but also with employers, obviously, with our Ministry of Education, very much so, and also with the learners, with non-public providers. In the end, it is one system. So another challenge and lesson at the same time is developing suitable micro-credential offering. So this is quite a learning process. The public institutions, they have some experience, but not a lot of experience with developing micro-credentials offerings that go into a demand-driven sort of way of working. So this is something that we are learning together as institutions. Thirdly, this quality assurance is vital. So for us, this quality framework that we have developed has been quite an important part of our success. So the fact that the boards of the institutions are committed on these agreements, it really helps. And at the same time, this quality framework is also discussed. So I was telling you about the 3 to 30 credits, for instance. So there's also institutions that say, okay, we want to experiment with maybe smaller micro-credentials also. And then, I can't mention it enough, like this EduBadges service is for us really part of our success. So, and they are also working on automation and integration with educational systems. So this will also help with the scaling up of micro-credentials within the Netherlands. So challenges, I've mentioned some already. So how to organize the external quality assurance in a manageable, light way. In the Netherlands, we are currently in a period of cutbacks. So we want the micro-credentials to land, to be embedded within the existing organization. So this is quite a challenge. And how do we increase the recognition and awareness of micro-credentials, especially amongst employers and learners? They are still quite unknown. I think somebody before said, when I go at a birthday party, not everybody knows what a micro-credential is. And how do we effectively guarantee the quality of smaller micro-credentials? Because it takes quite a bit of effort. And collaborating with institutions, sectors and employers. So future directions, they connect with these challenges. Experimenting with smaller micro-credentials, as I mentioned, facilitating collaborations, embedding micro-credentials in wallet developments, also important towards the future, and supporting our ministry in their working group in they are investigating the added value of micro-credentials and supporting SURF, obviously, in the further developing this EduBadges service. So I'm going to give Bram.
Thank you. Do we still have time? Where's my timekeeper? 2 minutes. Fantastic. All right. Here we go. So since this is a sharing session, we thought it would be fun to show you what this looks like on the ground. So we are one of the participants in the pilot. I was responsible for the pilot phase, and I also have my colleague somewhere here who's doing the heavy lifting as of this year. But just to look back on the piloting phase, I work at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences in Amsterdam. This is our beautiful campus. We have 48,000 students, and just to give you a bit more context, we are also facing budget cuts. We are facing sort of an enrollment cliff. So the previous slide and the numbers were from last year. We now have 44,000 students. So you see where this is going. And at the same time, and maybe therefore, we're also paying increasing attention to personalized learning pathways for targeted reskilling and upskilling. So these are, of course, interesting new target audiences for our offerings. And we are also part of a European University Alliance. So all this groundwork that Bart just detailed left us with basically a rolling start, so we can do what we think we're good at. So because we had the established national framework, and because we had the platform, and because we also did some work on using a national ID for learners that could be used across different institutions, we could then move on to the things that we know and like to do, which is, for example, the issuance of micro-credentials. The first time we did this, we had no idea that a digital ceremony was kind of boring, so we had to come up with a physical version of this. And going by the LinkedIn posts that I've seen my colleagues in the Netherlands post, this was quite common. But of course, you still have to design the micro-credentials. You still have to communicate about these micro-credentials. Also with employers, you have a smaller unit of communication at your disposal when you talk about your offering, which seemed very interesting to us. You have, of course, work to do on quality assurance. We had to install a qualifications committee that would be able to guarantee the final level of our micro-credentials, for example. And of course, you have the day-to-day business of running various project teams within your institution and the faculties. Currently, we only have 550 issued micro-credentials, so we are really trying to up this volume because we need to create more volume, especially to make sure that we are not embarrassed when we enter a birthday party, or because we want employers to know what we're doing. We do have a very committed board of directors. They say, okay, we want to increase this number, so please produce 20 new micro-credentials this year, produce 50 new micro-credentials in 2026, and also within your European University Alliance, we have targets, which is create 50 new joint micro-credentials. So it's great to have these very specific targets to keep working and keep momentum, basically. We also face some challenges, so Bart just mentioned integrating within your IT systems. There is a local landscape of systems in which you want to make sure that the micro-credential is known and that issuance from your student information system can lead to automatic issuance and automatic communication. It's very boring, but in practice it means a lot of work and you need to try and figure it out. Also, we want to scale up to allow for decentralized quality assurance, so every faculty can do their own qualifications committee. We want to create, as I said, much more volume to build out the micro-credential brand, together with, of course, all our Dutch colleagues who are doing the same thing. Well, luckily, we had an example by another alliance in the room next door earlier this morning that was about how you can work together on joint micro-credentials within your alliance. So that was very helpful for us to see.